Okay, so I now have an alien popcorn helmet, and I also have a Predator popcorn helmet. So I just need a Terminator film to come out so I can get a Terminator popcorn helmet and complete the set. Yeah, I saw Predator Badlands. And now it's time to review it. There's nothing in here.
Welcome to the most dangerous planet in the universe, where everything is trying to kill you.
I need a hand.
You're here to prove yourself. Hunting something that can't be killed.
Okay, so yeah, I just got back from the theater and just saw Predator Badlands in 3D. I'll talk about that a little bit. And this was a movie I was really looking forward to since it was announced, because as someone who is an amateur creative writer, I've always wanted to see a story based on Predator, focusing on a predator and not the humans trying to survive it. We're 7 films in now, and every time it's a human overcoming a predator. And in a series where the title character gets killed in every single film, apart from the last one that was Prey, because it wasn't titled after. You get what I mean. Predator's kind of losing its steam because every single time this supposedly terrifying creature in the universe gets wiped out. And I've always wanted to see a movie focused on said Predator. And when they announced that this movie would do exactly that, I got naturally excited because there was a couple of things I want to see in that film, i.e. a Predator in the future. This film does that. Another thing I always want to see was the world of Alien referenced without any xenomorphs being referenced. This movie does that with the inclusion of Weyland-Yutani as a background faction without any xenomorphs being mentioned. That's not a spoiler because that was in the trailer and everyone talked about it, analyzing the trailer, so I'm not really spoiling anything there. But this movie was kind of doing things I really wanted to see, so obviously I was super excited for it. It's one of the 3 film franchises that I would always go see at the theater if it ever releases a film at the theaters. That being Terminator, Alien, and Predator, or TAP for short. So, the general rough premise of this film is it focuses on a predator that's kind of the outcast of his clan, and in order to get back in the good graces of his clan, he decides to go to the most deadly planet in known Predator universe and hunt the most deadly creature that most predators don't even bother trying to hunt because it's considered unkillable. And you have the rough premise to Predator Badlands. It sounds a little simple, but let's be honest, it kind of is, and I kind of like that. It doesn't have to be this huge, convoluted plot that involves genetic engineering and autism, and I'm looking at you, the Predator from 2018. What was that about? But, I mean, regardless of how poorly received that film is, there are a couple of things I really liked about it, including the opening escape sequence with the Predator. I thought that scene was fantastic. Once the movie went all CGI, that's where it kind of lost me. But I digress. I need to focus on this film right now, and that's Predator Badlands. And the main character of this film is the Predator, also known as Dak, which sounds weird, but that's his name. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, I really look forward to this. I just don't like how the Predator looks, because he has no dreadlocks and his face looks a little weird and he seems a little bit on the small side, and funny enough, a lot of that is actually part of the story of him being kind of an outcast, and I like that. Also, it makes a little bit of sense. Hey, let's make him a runt compared to other Predators. Why? So we can actually have a average 6 foot tall stuntman do a lot of the practical stunts that we are going to be doing in this film, instead of relying on the very few 7 foot tall, body actors that we have in Hollywood trying to do their own stunts. I mean, they're kind of very rare, so you can't have them doing that much. So I kind of like little things like that in this film. Now, one thing I will say I was a little on was some of the facial CGI animations of Deck's face. I really would have liked to have seen them try to do his facial animations animatronically. Yes, that would have cost more money. Yes, that would have been really hard to do, but man, would that have looked amazing. I mean, the original 1980s Predator film did it all with animatronics, and to this day, it doesn't look bad at all. So I think with a little bit of extra money, a little bit more work, they probably could have pulled that off. Am I going to hold that against the movie? I don't think so. But it is something worth noting. A lot of the CGI looks great. It's just, there's a few moments where Deck's face is kind of animating, and it's just like, need a couple more weeks in the oven. Now, this may be a negative for you, or it may be a positive, but it should be noted that this movie is very tonally different from the original Predator film. Like, if you were to watch the original 1980s Predator film, and then just slap this puppy in, it's going to feel drastically different, because I mean, that movie was more of an action horror movie, and this one's more of an action adventure. I mean, I felt this movie had more in common with like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Tomb Raider than it did with any of the other Predator films. Now, is this a negative? I don't know. I would be more inclined to say no. But it should be noted for anyone who is a diehard fan of the Predator franchise. You're not really going to get a horror film here. There's not even a few moments where some horror aspects creep out. This is a pure action adventure film. And it kind of makes sense since you're now making the Predator the protagonist. The film also did a couple of clever things that I don't think this is really a spoiler. It was just like, I was kind of wondering how they're going to handle the Predator interacting with this human-made android, and they do come up with a way of explaining why this human android is speaking English and this Predator is speaking a original language for the film. But I mean, just like going back to the tone, even comparing this film with the same director's last live-action movie, Prey, it is very tonally different from that film. So I don't see this as a negative, but it should be noted that if you're expecting something like Predator or Predator 2 or Predators, this is a very different movie. Although I will say that if I had to compare this with any previous film, just in sort of what kind of tone it most resembles, maybe Predators with Adrian Brody. In certain ways, if you squint right, this feels like the closest type of tone sequel to that film than any of the others. Another thing that I really want to point out, like giving a shout out bravo to, is the fact that this movie did not rely too much on nostalgia bait or member berries or whatever you want to call it, where it's just remember this, remember that, remember this from the first movie, remember this from the second movie. It didn't do that too much. The few times there was kind of like a, oh hey, I noticed that. It's actually kind of subtle, and I would explain it, but I don't really want to spoil it, but just, you could kind of figure out what it would be if you take, hey, what if a Predator was not the apex Predator, but was actually one of the weaker players on the board? And you've seen the original Predator before, you can kind of guess what scene I'm kind of describing if you can figure it out. And when that scene happened, it was like, yeah, makes perfect sense. If I got a chance to do my Predator, as the protagonist movie, I probably would have done this same thing. And it didn't feel too on the nose, which I liked. But I will give credit to a lot of the naysayers of Alien Romulus. There were a few scenes, some worked, some didn't, where it was just like, hey, remember this line? Hey, remember this part in this movie? Hey, remember this? I still really liked Alien Romulus, but in hindsight, those scenes probably really should have been cut down to a minimum. And probably when they were making Predator Badlands, they probably saw those criticisms on Alien Romulus and were like, hey, we do have a couple of scenes in here that do heavily reference previous movies, maybe we should cut those down. And so I really enjoyed that they didn't rely on nostalgia baiting to help prop this movie up. Another thing I absolutely loved, as I mentioned before, I loved the incorporation of Weyland-Yutani as a faction in this universe without ever mentioning the Xenomorph. They were there doing something completely unrelated to Xenomorphs, and I thought that was awesome, amazing. I really enjoyed that, and it kind of gives legitimacy to the concept of Alien versus Predator a little bit more without ever having Alien and Predator meet. And so, absolutely, I thought that worked great. I really enjoyed it, and I would love to see this director and the director of Alien Romulus eventually collaborate on an Alien Predator crossover. Now, I saw this movie in 3D because I did not want to miss out on this after missing out on Tron Ares in 3D. Because if you saw my review, I told you I kind of regretted not seeing that movie in 3D. And so I saw this one in 3D, and it was really fun seeing the movie in 3D. There's a lot of tentacle creatures in this movie, and the 3D really complements those scenes very well. One of the best things I loved that was done with the 3D in this movie, though, is a really subtle moment. It's a blink and you miss it, but it's a scene where Deck has like a blade and he's saying something, and the subtitles come up because he's not speaking in any language that we've ever heard, and the blade is almost sticking out in front of the subtitles, and I thought that was really nice subtle touch, and it's very easy to miss. But just things like that. This isn't the greatest 3D movie I've ever seen, but it's not the worst one either. And so if you want to have a fun time at the theater, I would suggest maybe trying to see this in 3D because I thought it was pretty fun. The one downside, though, is typically with, especially like home 3D movies, the screen is much darker because of the glasses you're wearing. And I noticed that this movie was very, very dark in lighting. And I think it was because it was in 3D. I'm looking forward to seeing this movie again in 2D because I think it might actually be more brightly lit. And I think I'll be able to see some of the scenes better. But because the movie was a lot darker in 3D, I don't think I was able to notice any of the more janky CGI that maybe someone else would have noticed watching this movie in 2D. If you have seen this movie in 2D and it didn't seem too dark for you, please sing off in the comments down below. I'd like to know if the 2D version is brighter than the 3D version. But like, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was incredibly well paced. I didn't notice that it was an hour and 40-minute movie. It felt like it was an hour movie. It went by at a fast pace. It never slowed down really, apart from one scene, and it was meant to slow down that scene. It was supposed to be like a breather scene, and that was it. Very well paced, and just me and my fiance, we absolutely had a blast with this movie. I definitely want to see a sequel with not only this movie, but of these characters and this character Dak. I'd love to see him go on another adventure. I'd love to see him in a potential Alien Predator crossover at some point in the future. I like this finally Predator movie that has a Predator as the main character and not just the big bad threat. And I had a lot of fun with this movie. Was it perfect? Probably not, but man, any complaints I might have had are very minor and small, and I just had an absolute blast with this film. I would highly recommend you go check it out. It's definitely an awesome big screen movie. This is one of those movies you want to go see on the big screen. And so yeah, that's been my review of Predator Badlands. But before I go, I also want to talk about some of the really cool stuff that they had for the theater, gimmick, drink, and popcorn stuff. And like one of the things was at AMC, there's this like light up cup that's like designed around his like wrist gauntlet. And just one of the neat little details on it is the red light is actually 3 lights, like the Predator laser beam inside. And so I thought that was really cool. And then like the other one at AMC was this popcorn helmet of like Deck's head with the helmet on, which funny enough, I don't think he ever wears in the movie actually. But yeah, this day was pretty cool. And then funny enough, I did not see this at AMC. I actually saw it at Regal because I wanted to get this as well. This is an actual popcorn bucket. And it's of the Predator ship in the movie. And this thing is just so ridiculous. But it's also incredibly well detailed. And of course there's a little tiny Deck figure on the side, you know. But yeah, this thing is ridiculous. I mean, it's fun though. And so yeah, it will fit with the nice popcorn bucket collection I am amassing. And so I have Alien and Predator, and now I just need a Terminator film to come out so I can collect those popcorn buckets, and I'll have all 3 of my favorite franchises. So, anyway, that's been the review for Predator Badlands. I hope you guys enjoy the film. Definitely go check it out. My name's Christopher Conf, Lemon Hour Reviews, and that will be all for today.